Here are the updated figures for the Q3 report.
Thank you. I'll review these immediately.
Let me know if you need further clarification. You don't get to walk back into my life and pretend nothing happened.
I'm not pretending. I'm here for the deal.
Of course you are. I can't believe you would do this again.
You have to trust me on this.
Trust after everything?
It's not what you think.
You don't get to walk back into my life and pretend nothing happened. Tae-Young froze at the glass conference room door. He hadn't even stepped inside yet, but the voice hit him like a slap. He knew that voice. He had tried for 4 years to forget it, failed every single day. Sienna stood on the other side of the glass, her back straight, her face calm, her eyes cold. She wasn't the woman he had walked away from anymore. "I'm not pretending," he said quietly. "I'm here for the deal." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Of course you are." For years earlier, that same laugh had filled their apartment. That same voice had whispered his name in the dark. That same woman had believed he would stay. Now she looked at him like he was a stranger. Tae-Young took a breath and stepped inside. Neither of them noticed a little girl standing just outside the door, holding a toy in her small hands, staring at the man she had never met, the man who shared her eyes. For years ago, Sienna thought her life had ended. It was their anniversary. She remembered every detail of that night. The candles on the table, the cheap wine they had laughed about, the way she had worn his favorite dress, even though it didn't fit quite right anymore. She had been nervous, not because of the anniversary, but because of the secret she planned to tell him. She was pregnant. She had practiced the words all day, in the mirror, in her head, on the bus ride home from work. She imagined his face lighting up, imagined him lifting her off the ground like he always did when he was happy. But when Tae-Young came home that night, he didn't smile. He didn't kiss her. He didn't even sit down. "We need to talk," he said. Those 4 words changed everything. He told her his parents had arranged a marriage. He told her his career was taking off. He told her being with her was complicated. He told her he loved her, but love wasn't enough. He didn't ask her to come with him. He didn't ask her to wait. He packed a bag and walked out. Sienna stood in the doorway long after the door closed. Her hands were shaking. Her chest felt tight. The words she had practiced fell apart inside her. She never told him. 2 weeks later, she found out he had moved to another country. 6 months later, she gave birth alone in a small hospital room, holding the hand of a nurse she had just met. She named her daughter Zoe. Raising Zoe was the hardest thing Sienna had ever done. There were nights she cried quietly so her daughter wouldn't hear. Mornings she skipped meals so Zoe could eat. Days she worked 2 jobs, then came home and worked on her laptop, while Zoe slept beside her. She didn't have time to be angry. She didn't have time to miss Tae-Young. She had a child to raise. And slowly, painfully, she built something of her own. What started as a small online business turned into a real company, then an office, then employees. Investors noticed her. Clients trusted her. She worked harder than anyone else in the room because failure wasn't an option. For years later, Sienna was a CEO, not because of luck, because she refused to break. Zoe was 4 years old when she asked, "Mommy, why don't I have a daddy?" Sienna paused. She knelt down and looked into her daughter's eyes. "You do," she said gently. "He just doesn't live with us." Zoe accepted that answer easily. Children often do. What Zoe didn't know was that the man who gave her life had no idea she existed. And Sienna planned to keep it that way, until fate decided otherwise. The email came on a Tuesday morning. A foreign investment firm was interested in acquiring a large share of her company. The deal was big, $65 million big. It could change everything. Sienna read the company name twice. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't seen that name in 4 years, but she recognized it instantly. It was a company Tae-Young now ran as CEO. She closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Of all the companies in the world, she considered walking away. No deal was worth reopening old wounds. But then she looked at the photo on her desk. Zoe, smiling, missing one tooth, holding a crayon masterpiece. This wasn't about her anymore. She agreed to the meeting. When Tae-Young walked into her office for the first time, he almost didn't recognize her. She looked stronger, calmer, untouchable. Gone was the woman who waited for him at home. He felt something twist in his chest. She felt nothing. At least, that's what she told herself. Now, standing across from him in the glass conference room, Sienna folded her arms. "We keep this professional," she said. "We don't talk about the past." Tae-Young nodded slowly. Agreed. He didn't notice the drawing taped to the wall behind her desk. A child's drawing of a family. A woman, a little girl, and a man with dark hair and sharp eyes. He didn't notice the resemblance. Not yet, and as the meeting began, neither of them realized that the hardest negotiations ahead had nothing to do with money at all. The meeting ended with polite smiles and careful words. Sienna closed her laptop first. "My assistant will coordinate the next steps," she said, already standing. "If there's nothing else." "There is," Tae-Young said. She stopped but didn't turn around. "If this is personal, save it." "It's not," he replied, though his voice softened. "It's unexpected." She faced him then. "So is you leaving?" Silence stretched between them. The conference room felt smaller, the glass walls too thin. Tae-Young glanced past her shoulder and noticed a small backpack resting near the couch by the window. Pink straps. A tiny pair of shoes beside it. "You have a child," he said before he could stop himself. Sienna's jaw tightened. "That's not your concern." "I didn't mean," he paused. "I didn't know." She gave a short nod. "Now you do." He wanted to ask more. He wanted to say something kind, something that sounded like care, but he didn't know where he stood anymore. So he said the safest thing. "I'll see myself out." As he walked toward the door, a small voice echoed from the hallway. "Mommy?" Sienna's breath caught. Zoe stood there, clutching her toy rabbit, her curls bouncing as she stepped inside. She looked at Tae-Young with wide, curious eyes. He looked back, frozen. "This is Zoe," Sienna said quickly. "Zoe, this is Mr. Tae." Zoe tilted her head. "He looks like me." Tae-Young felt the floor tilt under his feet. He forced a smile. "That's funny." Sienna crouched and took Zoe's hand. "Sweetheart, go wait with Enemy, okay?" Zoe nodded but kept staring until the door closed behind her. The room felt colder after that. Sienna straightened. "Do not come near my child again," she said. "This deal stays professional. You don't cross that line." "I won't," he said immediately. "I promise." He meant it. At least, he thought he did. That night, Tae-Young couldn't sleep. He sat in his hotel room, staring at the city lights, replaying Zoe's face over and over. The way her eyes had studied him, the way her curls framed her cheeks, the way she had said, "He looks like me." It meant nothing, he told himself. It couldn't. Sienna had moved on. She had a life, a child. He had no right to assume anything more. Still, the thought followed him into his dreams. The next few weeks were filled with meetings, documents, negotiations. Sienna remained distant and focused. Tae-Young stayed respectful, careful not to linger. But Zoe was always there. Sometimes she waved from the hallway. Sometimes she sat quietly in Sienna's office, coloring while adults talked around her. Tae-Young noticed her favorite colors. The way she hummed when she concentrated. The way she smiled at strangers without fear. And every time, something twisted inside him. One afternoon, Sienna arrived late to a meeting, breathless and apologetic. Zoe had a fever. The babysitter canceled. She had no choice but to bring her along. "She can stay in the corner," Sienna said firmly, "if that's a problem." "It's not," Tae-Young said quickly. Zoe sat beside her mother, wrapped in a small blanket. Halfway through the meeting, she dropped her crayons. They rolled across the floor, stopping near Tae-Young's shoes. He bent down and picked them up, handing them back gently. "Thank you," Zoe whispered. Her hand brushed his. The contact was brief, innocent, but it felt heavy. That night, Sienna confronted him in the hallway. "You're getting too comfortable," she said. "I haven't done anything wrong." "You're watching her," Sienna said sharply. "I see it." He didn't deny it. "She's a great kid." "That's enough," she said. "Don't confuse kindness with access." Her words hurt more than he expected. The following Saturday, Sienna took Zoe to the park. It was their routine. Swings, ice cream, stories under the trees. A quiet life built from small, steady moments. They were halfway through feeding ducks when Zoe tugged on her sleeve. "Mommy," she whispered. "That man." Sienna looked up. Tae-Young stood a few steps away, hands in his pockets, uncertainty written across his face. "I didn't know you'd be here," he said quickly. Sienna's eyes narrowed. "We come here every Saturday." He swallowed. "Then I'll leave." Zoe stepped forward. "Hi." Tae-Young knelt to her level. "Hi." Sienna hesitated. Every instinct told her to pull Zoe back, but she didn't want to cause a scene. She watched carefully, ready to intervene. "What's your name?" Zoe asked. "Tae-Young," he said softly. "But you can call me Mr. Tae." She smiled. "I'm Zoe." "I know." Sienna shot him a warning look. He stood up. "I'll go now," he said. "Have a good day." As he walked away, Zoe waved. "He's nice," Zoe said. Sienna didn't answer. That night, Sienna couldn't sleep either. She watched Zoe breathe softly in her bed and felt the familiar weight of fear settle in her chest. She had built walls for a reason. She had protected her daughter for 4 years. She would not let those walls fall now. Across the city, Tae-Young stared at an old photo on his phone. Sienna, laughing, her hair messy, her eyes full of trust. He realized something then. He hadn't just lost her 4 years ago. He had lost a life he never knew he could have. And the closer he got to Zoe, the harder it became to pretend that loss didn't matter. Neither of them knew it yet, but the truth was already pushing its way to the surface. And it wouldn't stay hidden for long. The tension finally broke on a rainy Thursday morning. Sienna was late to work, Zoe clinging to her leg, crying softly. The daycare had called at the last minute. Power outage. Closed for the day. "I can't miss this meeting," Sienna muttered, pacing her office. "I really can't." Zoe sniffed. "I don't feel good." Sienna knelt, pressing her forehead to Zoe's. Slight fever again. Her chest tightened. She checked her phone. No Maya. No sitter. Everyone was unavailable. A knock came at the door. Sienna straightened quickly. "Come in." It was Tae-Young. He stopped when he saw Zoe curled up on the couch. "I can reschedule," he said immediately. "No," Sienna replied, rubbing her temples. "The investors are already flying in." Zoe whimpered. Without thinking, Tae-Young spoke. "I can stay with her." The words hung in the air. Sienna snapped her head up. "No, I mean it," he said calmly. "I won't leave this floor. I won't take her anywhere. You can check the cameras. I'll sit right outside your office." "That's not appropriate." "She's sick," he said softly. "And you're stretched thin." Zoe looked up. "Mr. Tae?" He crouched down. "Yeah." "Can you read?" she asked, holding up her book. Sienna felt her resolve crack. 30 minutes later, Sienna sat in the boardroom, her attention split between the presentation and the live camera feed on her tablet. Tae-Young sat on the couch outside her office, Zoe wrapped in a blanket beside him. He read slowly, carefully, changing his voice for different characters. Zoe giggled, then coughed, then leaned against his shoulder. Sienna's throat tightened. This was dangerous. After the meeting ended, she rushed back. Zoe was asleep, her head on Tae-Young's chest, her small hand gripping his shirt. Tae-Young looked up, frozen. She just fell asleep. Sienna nodded, unable to speak. Carefully, she lifted Zoe into her arms. Tae-Young stood, giving space. "Thank you," Sienna said finally. But this can't happen again. He nodded. I understand. But neither of them believed it. From that day on, boundaries blurred. Zoe asked for Mr. Tae constantly. She drew pictures with 3 figures holding hands. She asked questions Sienna wasn't ready to answer. Why doesn't Mr. Tae come to dinner? Why doesn't he stay longer? Does he have a mommy? Sienna dodged every question. Meanwhile, the deal moved forward. Tae-Young extended his stay in Atlanta. Meetings became frequent. Lunches unavoidable. One evening, after a long negotiation session, the power went out in the building. Emergency lights flickered on. Zoe clapped. It's like camping. They were alone in Sienna's office. Rain hammered against the windows. Tae-Young checked his phone. Storm knocked out half the city. Sienna sighed. We'll wait it out. Zoe crawled onto the rug and started building towers with paperweights. She's smart, Tae-Young said quietly. She had to be, Sienna replied. He looked at her. Really looked. The exhaustion, the strength, the loneliness. You didn't tell me, he said. Tell you what? That you were pregnant. Her eyes flashed. You didn't give me a chance. I would have stayed. You left, she said sharply. You chose your family. Your duty. You chose everything except me. Silence. Zoe knocked over her tower. Oh. Tae-Young smiled at her, then looked back at Sienna. I was wrong. That doesn't undo 4 years. No, he agreed, but it matters now. The power came back on. That night, Sienna cried alone in the shower, water hiding the sound. She was losing control, losing certainty. The truth came out 2 weeks later. Zoe was playing at the office when she fell and scraped her knee badly. Blood. Panic. Sienna rushed her to the hospital. Tae-Young followed without asking. In the emergency room, the nurse asked routine questions. Allergies? None. Father's medical history? Sienna froze. Tae-Young looked at her. The nurse waited. Sienna swallowed. Unknown. Zoe looked up. But Mr. Tae... Sienna cut her off. Zoe. The nurse frowned but continued. Later, while Zoe slept in the hospital bed, Tae-Young stood by the window. She almost said it, he whispered. Sienna didn't answer. You were going to keep this from me forever. I was protecting her, Sienna said. And myself. He turned to her. Look at her. Sienna did. She deserves honesty, he said, even if I don't deserve forgiveness. Sienna shook her head, tears spilling. You don't understand what it took to survive without you. I want to understand, he said. Please. She sank into the chair, exhausted. She's yours, Sienna said quietly. Zoe is your daughter. The words landed between them, heavy and irreversible. Tae-Young staggered back like he'd been struck. My daughter. Sienna nodded. I found out 2 weeks after you left. His hands trembled. All this time. Yes. He covered his face, emotion breaking through his control. I missed her first steps, he whispered. Her first words. You missed everything, Sienna said. Zoe stirred. Mommy? Sienna stood quickly. I'm here, baby. Zoe smiled sleepily and reached out toward Tae-Young. Daddy? The words shattered what little restraint he had left. Sienna closed her eyes. There was no going back now. Everything had changed. And the hardest part was still ahead. Tae-Young didn't sleep that night. He sat in a chair beside Zoe's hospital bed, afraid that if he closed his eyes, she would disappear. Every small sound made him look up. Every breath she took felt like a gift he hadn't earned. Sienna watched him from across the room. She saw the way he flinched whenever Zoe stirred, the way his hand hovered, unsure if he was allowed to touch her, the way his eyes filled when Zoe smiled in her sleep. It hurt, not because she still loved him, but because some part of her did. By morning, Zoe was discharged with a bandaged knee and strict instructions to rest. Tae-Young insisted on driving them home. You don't have to, Sienna said flatly. I want to, he replied. The drive was quiet. Zoe hummed to herself in the back seat, clutching her stuffed rabbit. At the apartment, Tae-Young stopped at the door. I won't come in, he said. Not unless you say so. Sienna hesitated, then opened the door wider. 5 minutes. He stepped inside like a guest in a stranger's life. Zoe immediately dragged him to her room. "Look," she said proudly. "These are my drawings." Tae-Young knelt beside her bed. He studied every picture like it mattered more than anything in the world. "That one's you," Zoe said, pointing to a stick figure with messy hair. "And that's Mommy. And that's me." Tae-Young swallowed hard. "I like it." Sienna leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, guarding herself. After 5 minutes became 15, she cleared her throat. "Zoe needs rest." "Okay," Tae-Young said quickly. He stood, then froze. Can I hug her?" Zoe answered before Sienna could. "Yes." He hugged her gently, like she was something fragile and precious. When he pulled away, Zoe smiled up at him. "Don't go away again." His heart broke all over again. "I won't," he said softly. "I promise." Outside, Sienna closed the door behind him. "You don't get to make promises," she said. "Not yet." "I know," he replied, "but I'm not leaving this time." She crossed her arms tighter. "We'll see." The next weeks were the hardest Sienna had ever lived. Zoe wanted Tae-Young constantly. She asked why he didn't live with them, why he didn't come to preschool pickup, why Mommy and Daddy didn't sleep in the same room. Sienna answered what she could, dodged what she couldn't. They set rules. Short visits, public places, no overnight stays, no big changes. Tae-Young followed every rule without complaint. He showed up early. He brought books. He learned Zoe's routines. He listened. Too well. One afternoon at the aquarium, Zoe slipped her small hand into his naturally. Sienna watched it happen, her chest tightening. That was supposed to be her job alone. That night, Sienna confronted him again. "You're moving too fast." "I'm just being there." She's getting attached. "She already is," he said gently. "She always was. I just didn't know." That truth hurt more than anger ever could. The deal closed successfully. $65 million. Applause. Celebrations. Tae-Young offered to step away. "You don't need to see me anymore," he said. "I'll still be Zoe's father. Just not in your space." Sienna looked at him, surprised. "You do that if it makes this easier for you." She hesitated. "Stay," she said finally, "but keep your distance." He nodded. "Whatever you need." One evening, Zoe had a nightmare. Sienna rushed to her room, heart racing. "Mommy," Zoe cried, "I dreamed Daddy went away again." Sienna held her tight. "He's not going anywhere." Zoe sniffed. "Promise?" Sienna closed her eyes. "I promise." The words tasted like fear. The next morning, Sienna woke up late. Too late. Zoe wasn't in her bed. Panic hit instantly. She ran to the apartment, calling her name. Then she heard laughter. Zoe's laughter. She rushed into the kitchen. Tae-Young stood there, flipping pancakes. Zoe sat on the counter, swinging her legs. "Morning," he said calmly. She woke up early. Sienna's fear turned to anger in seconds. "You had no right," she snapped. "You can't just be here." Zoe's smile faded. Tae-Young immediately set the spatula down. "I'm sorry. I thought—" "You thought wrong," Sienna said. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." Zoe slid off the counter, eyes filling with tears. "I just wanted pancakes," she whispered. Sienna froze. She looked at her daughter's face, then at Tae-Young's guilt-stricken expression. She exhaled slowly. "Go away in your room, Zoe." Zoe obeyed, wiping her cheeks. When the door closed, Sienna leaned against the counter, shaking. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I built this life without you. If you walk away again." "I won't," he said firmly. "I swear on everything. You already swore once." He stepped back, giving her space. "Then don't trust my words. Trust my actions." Sienna looked at him. For the first time in 4 years, she wasn't sure she could push him away, and that terrified her more than anything. The next few weeks fell into a fragile rhythm. Sienna kept a tight schedule, juggling Nexus meetings, board calls, and Zoe's school events. Tae-Young appeared at the edges of that life, always carefully measured, never overstepping. He brought homework help, story time, and gentle encouragement. He never interfered with her authority, but the way Zoe lit up when he entered a room was impossible to ignore. One Saturday morning, they went to the zoo. Zoe ran ahead, dragging both parents along by the hand. She squealed at the penguins, pressed her face against the glass, and narrated each movement in rapid-fire toddler enthusiasm. Tae-Young knelt beside her, explaining penguin behaviors as though he were a wildlife expert. Sienna watched silently, tension curling in her chest. He was perfect for her daughter, and she couldn't deny it. After lunch, Zoe wandered off toward the playground. Sienna leaned against a bench, arms crossed. Tae-Young joined her. "You're handling this better than I imagined," he said quietly. Sienna didn't look at him. "I have to. She needs consistency. If I fall apart, she feels it." "I know, and I'll do everything I can to give her that stability," he said softly, "even if it means stepping back sometimes." Her eyes flicked to him. "Sometimes." "Yes," he admitted, "because it's not about me. It's about her, and I need you to be the one she relies on most." The honesty in his tone caught her off guard. For years ago, he would have demanded her attention, argued with her choices, ignored her boundaries. Now he seemed different, mature, measured, willing to earn his place. Later that week, Sienna received a text from JP. "Lunch tomorrow? I have a new project idea I want to run by you." She paused before responding, realizing that even as she navigated Tae-Young's return, life outside of her past existed. JP was easy, predictable, a friend, perhaps something more. But Tae-Young was complicated, painful, but undeniable. Saturday came again. The agreed-upon zoo visit began like clockwork. Zoe sprinted into Tae-Young's arms, and for a few seconds, Sienna felt like an outsider in her own life. But she reminded herself, boundaries, she was in control. By mid-morning, Zoe wanted to try the carousel. Tae-Young held her steady on the horse, explaining how to hold the reins. Sienna watched, noting the way Zoe leaned into him, trusting him completely. She forced herself to breathe, reminding herself this was supervised, controlled, temporary. "You're amazing with her," Sienna said quietly, startling him. "I'm only doing what any father would," he replied, though the weight behind his words was unmistakable. She didn't answer. She didn't want to argue. Not now. Later, as Zoe napped in the car on the drive home, Sienna glanced at Tae-Young in the passenger seat. He was silent, staring out the window. She studied him. The faint lines around his eyes, the way his jaw tensed occasionally, the guilt and longing etched into his expression. He had returned not just for Zoe, but for her too, and she hated herself for feeling anything at all. "Can I ask you something?" she said, voice low. He turned slightly. "Anything. Why now? After all this time?" He exhaled, the answer obvious in his eyes. "Because I realized that life without you, without her, wasn't living at all. And I'm not going to waste another day pretending it's okay." Her fingers tightened on the steering wheel. "Do you understand what you're asking me? You want to enter her life after 4 years. You expect me to let you in?" "I'm not expecting," he said gently. "I'm asking. I'll earn it, slowly, every day if I have to." Sienna looked away, out the windshield. The city blurred past. Her heart ached and raced all at once. She wanted to believe him, wanted to hope that maybe this time things could be different. But the memory of betrayal lingered. For years of anger, tears, and struggle didn't vanish in a single day. The next Saturday, a new challenge arose. They went to the park as usual. Zoe raced ahead toward the swings. Tae-Young followed. But then, unexpectedly, JP appeared, jogging across the park with Zoe's favorite kite in hand. Zoe squealed, "JP, look what I made." Sienna froze. Tae-Young stiffened. Two men, both important in her daughter's life, converged in the same space. Zoe, oblivious of the tension, ran between them, waving the kite. "Zoe, remember the rules," Sienna said softly. Zoe paused. "But, Mommy..." They both came. Sienna's chest tightened. Tae-Young's eyes met hers, stormy, frustrated. She's too young to understand. Why are you introducing him? He's a friend, she said calmly, forcing control. And she likes him. That's all. It's not all, he snapped, voice low but tense. She doesn't need him. She needs stability. She needs her father. Sienna held his gaze. And you're learning how to be that, step by step. But I won't let you undermine her life by making it about you. Tae-Young's jaw tightened. I'm not undermining anything. I'm claiming what's mine. No, Sienna said firmly. You're claiming a chance, a place you have to earn. And you won't force it. The tension lingered as Zoe ran back and forth, oblivious. Sienna glanced at JP, who smiled awkwardly and stepped back, clearly sensing the storm between her and Tae-Young. By the time they left the park, the air was heavy. Tae-Young followed Sienna to the car. Am I wrong? He asked quietly, voice filled with frustration and hurt. Yes, she said, but I also know you love her. That's why I keep giving you chances. Don't ruin them. He nodded silently. In the car, Sienna buckled Zoe in and started the engine. She stole a glance at Tae-Young. His face was pale, conflicted, desperate. For the first time, Sienna realized the true challenge wasn't just co-parenting. It was navigating the fragile balance between past love, present responsibility, and the possibility of future betrayal. And she wasn't sure she was ready for any of it. But one thing was clear, Tae-Young wasn't going away. And Zoe's heart had already chosen him. Sienna braced herself. The real test was just beginning. The next Saturday morning arrived with tension thicker than the Atlanta fog. Sienna dressed Zoe in a sunny yellow dress, brushing her hair carefully into 2 neat braids. Zoe bounced in excitement, talking nonstop about mermaids and dinosaurs, completely unaware that today would be different. In the park, Tae-Young waited, hands tucked into his pockets, eyes scanning for any sign of trouble. He looked up as Sienna and Zoe approached, and for a brief moment, all 4 years of absence seemed to collapse into that instant. Hi, Mr. Tae. Zoe shouted, running into his arms. Tae-Young caught her gently, lifting her off the ground. Hey, my little explorer. Ready for another adventure? Zoe giggled, hugging him tight. Yes, but Mommy, can we also see the ducks? Sienna smiled tightly, standing back, watching the small family unit form. Tae-Young's gaze flicked to her, a silent question in his eyes. She shook her head ever so slightly. Today is about Zoe. They wandered through the park, feeding ducks, watching Zoe climb on the playground, and taking turns sliding down the slides with her. Tae-Young was attentive, playful, patient. Sienna noted how Zoe mirrored him, gestures, expressions, enthusiasm. He was her father, undeniably, even if he hadn't been present for 4 years. After the playground, Tae-Young suggested they sit under a large oak. Zoe, I want to tell you something important, he said gently, turning her to face him. Zoe tilted her head. What is it? I'm not just Mr. Tae. I'm your daddy, he said softly. Zoe's eyes widened. Daddy? Yes, sweetheart. I'm your father. I've always loved you, even when I couldn't be here. Zoe looked to Sienna, confused. Sienna knelt beside her, taking her hand. Yes, baby, he is your daddy. That doesn't change anything about us. I'm still your mommy, and I love you just as much as ever. But now you know who he is, too. Zoe hugged both of them at once, a small, innocent bridge forming between past and present. Tae-Young's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Sienna stood, feeling the weight of 4 years lift slightly. Tae-Young approached her cautiously. Can we talk? Just you and me for a moment? She nodded, wary but willing. They walked a short distance to a quiet bench. I know I've made everything complicated, Tae-Young began. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I never stopped loving you. And I never stopped thinking about Zoe. You made choices for me without asking, Sienna said firmly. You tried to protect me, but protection doesn't give you the right to erase our lives. For years aren't something you can just make up for. I know, he whispered. I'm asking for a chance to be part of her life. That's all. I'll follow every rule, every boundary. I just want to be present. Sienna studied him, measuring the truth in his eyes, the honesty in his voice. Finally, she said, "You get to be part of her life. Supervised visits. Only when I approve. You respect my rules, my choices, my boundaries. If you can do that, then yes, you can be her father, but nothing more for now." Tae-Young nodded solemnly. "Thank you. That's all I ask. I won't ruin this." Meanwhile, JP had been a steady presence in their lives. He had integrated himself into Zoe's routine without ever overstepping. That evening, Sienna met him for dinner at their usual rooftop spot. JP smiled warmly. "How was the park today?" Sienna exhaled, leaning back. "It was complicated, but good. Zoe's happy, and that matters most." JP nodded, placing his hand over hers. "I know, and I'm here, always, to make sure she has stability, fun, and love. That's what matters to me, too." Sienna smiled genuinely, the weight of fear and anxiety easing slightly. She realized she didn't have to choose between her past and present. She could honor both in their own ways. Tae-Young would be part of Zoe's life, and JP would be there too, a grounding presence to them all. Over the next few months, a new rhythm formed. Tae-Young attended supervised Saturdays, bringing Zoe thoughtful gifts and engaging her imagination. Sienna observed the bond between them grow, careful to maintain boundaries, but also allowing love to blossom in its own time. JP continued to share dinners, lunches, and weekend adventures with Sienna and Zoe. His presence was steady, reliable, uncomplicated, exactly the contrast Sienna needed to rebuild her trust in people. One evening, as Sienna tucked Zoe into bed, the little girl smiled up at her. "Mommy, I like how our family is, even with Mr. Tae and JP." Sienna hugged her tightly. "I like it too, baby. We're building something special. Love doesn't have to be just one way. It can be many ways." Zoe yawned, snuggling under her covers. "Good night, Mommy. Good night, Daddy." She looked at Sienna. "Good night, Mr. Tae, too." Sienna's eyes filled with tears. She kissed Zoe's forehead. "Good night, my love." Later, Sienna stepped onto her balcony, looking at the city lights. She thought of Tae-Young, JP, and the winding path that had brought her here. Life had been complicated, painful, and full of sacrifices, but she had survived, thrived, and created a world where love could coexist in unexpected ways. Tae-Young was learning how to be a father. JP was showing her that life could be simple, joyful, and present. And Zoe, her little miracle, had two loving adults guiding her, each in their own way. Sienna took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past lift completely. For the first time in years, she felt peace. She had faced heartbreak, betrayal, absence, and fear, and emerged stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. Her story, her daughter's story, and her life were no longer defined by loss or abandonment. They were defined by love, resilience, and the courage to keep moving forward. And as the city lights shimmered below, Sienna smiled, knowing that the best chapters of their lives were just beginning.